Young man, stand up and make some noise for 5 on the floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Uh-oh. Yeah. It's Mercy. Music by Mercy again. Heat Nation, we the culture. Yo, E, I need you to call timeout. Need Brady to set the floor plan. Tropical blanket, open for the shot. Yo, Greg, set the pick. Still 5 on the floor, still ride for my dog. Still battle on the court, still survive in the war. Keep your eye on the ball, or get burned from the keep this mic off the wall without turning the cheek. From night to day, no sleeping paths or allowed to mourn us. The nut is sleeping us, never catch us snoring. Live from Miami, report in the heat with 5 Reasons Sports from the court to the streets. Yeah, Wake County, Heat Nation, we say it proudly.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, Alex Toledo, Brady Hawk, and others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Also, make sure to subscribe to Off the Floor for the most heat anywhere.
All right, welcome back to 5 on the Floor. Here's today's floor plan. I'm Ethan Skolnick. You can follow me at Ethan J. Skolnick on the 5 Reasons Sports. We got Coach Geo. You can find him at Coach Geo on Instagram or Geo_Valdez on Twitter. The Miami Heat will be picking 13th. Golden State Warriors will be picking 11th. Maybe for themselves, maybe for someone else. Just did an episode with our guy Adele about possible options at 13 who might fit the profile, the type of player that they would be looking to add. Of course, that pick could be included in a trade for someone. I don't know. That someone might be in Milwaukee right now. But we're going to go a little bit off the board here today. Before we want to introduce a couple sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Our friends over at Prize Picks. Use the code 5 FIVE. Put down your $5. You get $50 to play right away. Prize Picks is the official fantasy sponsor of the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Again, you get those $50 on the Explore page. It's legal in the state of Florida. If you see another code there, delete it and add ours. Ours is better. It will give you the most possible to play with. And again, you're getting basically $45 for free. So give it a shot. Prize Picks throughout the NBA playoffs. Might want to play those Jalen Duren unders. Less thans. I'm not supposed to say that. The other word. Also, Off the Floor. Use no code there. That link is right there in the description. I will give you that one. That link is right there in the description. You'll bypass the Apple upcharge. Off the Floor is our home for the most heat information and conversation. We give you things there first. We also got a draft channel, transaction channel, the stages. It's all there. It is $2.99 per month, but I mean, come on. Gas these days is $5. It's half a gallon of gas. So join us on Off the Floor. Again, that's where you're going to find all of our contributors. All right. So Gio, you have a theory here. Let's start with this. We tell our guest hosts to bring something to the table, since my typical hosts do not. So Gio, roll in here. What you got?
So what I got, and we were talking about this yesterday, is I think the Heat's development program, to a certain extent, has become a hindrance.
Mm-hmm. Right?
That's the hook. People are like, what are you talking about? How is it a hindrance?
Can I guess?
Well, yeah, take a guess.
All right, let me see if I'm right here, because since you gave me this topic, I've been thinking about it. Okay, I think on one hand, it has become a bit of a hindrance in trade discussions because teams don't value the Heat's players maybe as much as others, because performances have dropped off in other places when they've been outside of the Heat's development program. Now, we are watching Max Strus and Duncan Robinson play against each other right now. There are exceptions to the rule. Derek Jones Jr. took a couple of years, but there's a lot of guys who've completely, Caleb Martin, in particular, also Gabe Vincent, others have kind of fallen off the map after they left Miami. The second thing I thought you might be thinking of, and you may go totally off the board here, is that the Heat's thought that they can kind of develop anybody into a frontline player has made them more inclined to stand pat in some situations or hold on to a guy who they fall in love with. Am I close with any of those?
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards that second option of their development success, going back to the Ike Austin days, right? The late 90s. going back to that
Somebody in my
era.
generation. Well, you're not my
Yeah, right.
generation, but you're close enough.
30 plus years. You know what though? I started watching, which I have a funny story about that. How I started
Okay.
watching the Heat because I was a Bulls fan, but their developmental success might be raising Miami's floor too much.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what do I mean by that? They consistently develop second round players like Pelle Larson. They consistently develop undrafted guys like a Max Strus and Duncan, as to what you mentioned previously. Fringe rotation guys that
Mm-hmm.
we've seen time in and time out. Like, does anybody know what Kyle Guy is up to?
Well,
Right?
they
Like,
didn't really develop him. I think he was
no,
beyond development. But I mean, look, Rodney Magruder is a good example.
yeah,
Never did anything when he
never
went
did anything.
elsewhere. I mean, there's been many others. I mean, I mentioned Gabe. Gabe's situation was kind of unfortunate because he got hurt
Yeah, he got hurt.
right after he left, but the Heat almost paid him. The Heat wanted to pay Caleb a whole lot of money. He's been one of the worst players in the NBA the
Yeah,
past 2 years. There are a lot of these guys. They just go to, and again, Derrick Jones Jr. took 2 years to kind of find his spot after we left. But there has never been one of these guys that they've left and we've been like, oh, because
correct.
everybody knew what Max was. They just didn't want to pay him that amount.
Mm-hmm.
And Duncan, I mean, we saw Duncan's career. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, essentially,
Yeah.
Highsmith, I had some pretty decent moments with Phoenix this year after they acquired him, but I kind of feel like he maxed out as a player. They kind of felt he maxed out as a player. I guess Myron Gardner is next in line here. Maybe Jameer Young. They've always got a couple others, not bigs, by the way. They don't do as well with the bigs, but in terms
No.
of they have like two prototypes. Then I'll go back to you on this. It's like that wing defender who they develop into a 3-and-D, right? So that's Highsmith. That's now Gardner. They've had other Magruder, I mentioned. They've had others along those lines. And then there's the shooter type, which they haven't had a lot of luck with point guards in general. So Grante Weber was a 12-year experiment. But RJ Hampton they brought in. He was someone else's first-round pick. But the other one is kind of the shooter archetype. But really, after Strus and Duncan, it's kind of dried up. They tried Cole Swider. Yeah, that didn't work out. They had that guy Peterson in camp last year.
Right.
So yeah, it seems like maybe Keels is the next one that they're trying with. But okay, so your thing is that it raises their floor. Well, the other problem with it raising their floor is that when you had the lottery sort of the way it was, and you had it where the Heat were never bad enough.
Correct.
Their fringe rotation players are not as bad as other fringe rotation players, and so that kind of lessened it. But I mean, do you give any credence to the theory? Before I get back to the first one, do you give any credence? I guess you do, to the theory that maybe they just sort of think that they can develop from within at times, and so they have let some guys go recently, which has been something I push for, but that sometimes that influences their decision making.
Oh, definitely. I think they're so confident in their developmental, I guess, pedigree, you can call it now, because there's been 30 years of it, of them developing guys that they think, you know what, we can develop guys. We don't need to draft a late first rounder. We don't need to necessarily bottom out, if you will, because we'll find someone that's just as valuable. Just like people say, oh, but Miami passed on this guy. But then they'll say, yeah, but we also got Pelle Larson in the second round. Meanwhile, Riza Shea is the first pick in the draft, and look what he's up to. You know what I mean? So they're always going to, I guess, err on that side where they're always going to say, hey, but we developed this guy or we developed that guy.
But they've also tilted more towards it. This has influenced their feeling about second-round picks, because you mentioned Larson, but he's kind of an exception. The only second-round picks that have really popped for them since 2008 are Chalmers, which was 2008, but he was very top of the second round. Josh Richardson, which he was in Justice's draft, so he was kind of middle of the second round in 15, right? 40-something. And Larson. Other than that, their feeling has actually been, we don't even need the second-round pick.
Yeah, undrafted.
We'll get the undrafted guy. Another guy to mention here is Tyler Johnson, who everybody just remembers from the contract, but he actually was a success story at one point. And they were able to get him because he had a bad Portsmouth camp. So they were hoping for him to drop out entirely. And the past 2 years, they've said, I don't know if this is true, you can't verify this, but that they would have taken, if they'd had another second round pick, they would have taken Keshad Johnson, who they ended up getting right after the draft. He was like their first signing. They ended up drafting Larson out of the same school instead, which was wise because Pella's a better player at this point.
Yeah.
And probably will be. And then that apparently Golden was going to be their second round choice last year, or could have been. Him I don't like very much as a player. I don't. He seems like a very lovely person, but I'm just saying, like as a player, I don't know. The slow-footed big to me is not where the NBA has gone here. When they put him out there with Ware at Summer League, I was like, you got him guarding the perimeter? That's not going to work. No. He can't do Bam things. So I guess the overall point is they always believe. I think there's two things that they have a lot of confidence in. Okay, from a basketball standpoint, one is that their scouting staff can find a player that fits them as well at 13 as maybe at 6 or 7 in the same draft. So why quote unquote tank? Okay, and again, we see what the lottery odds always work against them. May change next year when they change the rules. But we're going to find a guy that if we keep the pick, we're going to find a guy we really like at 13. We got Tyler at 13. He would be top 5 in a redraft, probably. Yeah. We got Bam at 14. He absolutely would be top 5 in a redraft. Jaquez, they got at 20. He would be top 10 in a redraft. Jovic, the jury is out. It looked like he was, they drafted him properly. Precious was actually drafted to his draft slot.
Correct.
It's just that Maxie Bain and Jaden McDaniels were taken after. But they drafted their draft slot. But I guess the overall point is that that's the first thing. And the second thing is they have always felt that they could find a guy undrafted probably as good as they would get in the second round, so that the second round picks are not really as necessary for them. And if they need to use them to attach to get rid of a mistake, which they've done a few times, that again, they're more used for them as currency than anything else. I think ultimately at its core, and on the other side, we'll get into more of the positives and negatives, and I want you to jump in more on it. At its core, it's good. It's good that you believe in, Adam Simon and his staff's ability to identify players who can help you. And it's good that you believe in Eric Spoelstra and Chris Quinn and Malik Allen and all those guys, their ability, Caron Butler, their ability to raise the level so that these guys are maximizing. The negative, again, is if it influences decisions where you think your players are better than they really are, or they have ceilings higher than they really have. Yeah. Right?
But it's not just that, Ethan. Like, listen, I'm all about coaching. It's what I do for a living, right? Like, I coach people on a daily basis, and I think there's extreme value in that, right? There's a reason why Spo, up until a few days ago, was probably the highest paid coach in the league. Right? Because Miami expected him to figure it out with the talent that was on the floor. But at the end of the day, Spo can't suit up and make a shot. You know what I mean? He can't, he's not the one blowing assignments on the defensive side of the floor. Right? So they need more talent. I mean, we've said this ad nauseum. And at the end of the day, it's been a detriment that they've thought, yes, we can get a guy that's an undrafted player that's just as productive as someone in the second round, or we can draft a guy that's maybe 18 that we think might be better than the guy that's available at 11 or 12. But at the end of the day, the odds are not in their favor.
Right? You're always working uphill, essentially.
Exactly.
They are. You have to prove you're the hardest working, most determined team year after year after year, and it's like at a certain point you're just squeezing. There's
no more toothpaste.
There's no more toothpaste. The toothpaste is gone, and I think that's kind of where we're at. So on the other side, I want to throw something at you because I do see a place where this, if they come through this offseason and get the guy they've been trying to get, where all this development stuff will come in handy. I do think so, but something else has to happen first. All right, this guy. Look at it. We'll put up this instead of something else. This is our guy, Eric Rubenstein, when he's not sitting next to Bam and helping him score 83 points, which, by the way, helped the Wizards get the first pick and is going to make the Wizards good for the next 10 years. Eric Rubenstein is helping you as a personal injury attorney. Reach out to him, ericrubenstein.com. That's ericrubenstein.com. You can also find him on Press. There's a reason he gets those seats is because he's really good at his job. Because you know what? When he gets his money, you get your money. That's how this works. So reach out to him again at ericrubenstein.com. He's been on the podcast with us. He'll be on with us again, but he is the personal injury attorney to go to if you have a car accident, slip and fall, or anything else. Okay. Here's where this could bear fruit, right? If they figure out a way to get the guy, They talk a lot. There's 10 guys, right? Okay. Alex and I had trouble getting to even 10 guys in the NBA.
Yeah, I don't think there's 10
that are build around guys. You and I are in agreement. And this is the other thing, having you on, and I guess we don't like to, we can't speak specifically to someone's injury history or any of that, but you're more equipped to do so than most because of what you do in your daily life. You deal with a lot of people as a personal trainer, etc. Calf problems, this kind of stuff. People are concerned about Giannis's age, 31, and also the calf injury history, especially in light of the fact that guys like Halliburton, Tatum, and others have had calf injuries, and then the Achilles snapped. You obviously can't diagnose him, no. but you seem less concerned than others, which is interesting. Yeah. Which is interesting to me because I would think you would be more concerned than others.
No, so I've been back and forth with a few, which I probably shouldn't even waste my time doing it anymore. But I've been listen. This is giving me 2004 Shaquille O'Neal vibes, right? Where it was clear it was both the organization and the player needed to just move on, right?
Right.
Now, Giannis is not a guy that I foresee falling off a cliff. He's not a guy that I foresee falling off a cliff. Yes, a lot of his game is predicated on athleticism, but if you look at his numbers and the eye test, right, we have to reference both. He's one of the most efficient post-up players and mid-range players in the NBA. Those are traits that translate well as you age. Right? We've seen all the greats as they age, they become better post players and they become better in the mid range. Giannis has been doing that for the past 6 seasons.
Well, right? I mean, there's one guy that we're very familiar with. Is not built quite the same way, but Dwayne Wade became an elite post up player and mid range player as he progressed into his 30s. Yeah, that was his game, basically.
That was his game.
Right.
And people forget. Yes, I know we're all afraid of calf injuries. Rightfully so. There has to be a level of respect from the training staff, from the player. It's not something that you can just, rub some dirt on. You have to make sure that you're on top of that. But at the end of the day, there is no correlation to, hey, I've strained my calf once or twice. That's going to lead to a Achilles for sure. It's not 100% certainty that will happen. You can do things to mitigate the risk. But at the end of the day, every single athlete that's out there is at risk of getting injured. When they sign their contract, it says it on there. So I'm not as, especially with them sitting him out. I think they held Giannis against himself, sitting him out. I think that was a very good look on Milwaukee's behalf. And also, people have to understand, Bam is probably going to be the guy guarding the other team's best player. Giannis won't have the same workload. Spo will make sure of that. He'll probably limit his minutes a bit, and they'll surround him with other guys.
Everybody talks about how they're going to fit on. Everybody who's concerned talks about the fit on offense, and nobody talks about the fact that no one's going to score off them.
Nobody. Like, people forget Cleveland had Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, who, come on now, are they ultimate spacers?
Right.
And yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I think Miami will do what's required to surround both of those guys with the adequate pieces so that they're not carrying that immense workload, right? This won't be a Eric Dampiers, your best,
or 38-year-old Zilzgrunas, Ilgauskas, or Ronny Turiaf, or Dexter Pittman, or any of the guys that they rolled out during that period of time. But it's a great pivot, though, actually, as we close this up, because this was kind of the point I want to get to after the break. I do think this is where the Heat's developmental program can bear fruit, because if they have to trade a lot of their war chest, so to speak, to get Giannis, if they've got to empty it, and I don't think they're going to need to empty it completely. I think they'll be able to hold a piece back. Maybe it's Pelle Larsson and Davion Mitchell, and they have to give up, the swaps, the picks, Ware, Hero, probably Yakachonis. I think they're going to be able to probably keep Jaquez or Larsson. That's my guess. I just did a podcast with Brady where we both think that it probably makes more sense for them to keep Larsson. And it might make more sense for Milwaukee, and it might make more sense for Milwaukee to take Jaquez, even though he's doing extension, because he's more of a scorer. Larsson could be an elite glue guy on a contending type team.
Another point: if you have Jaquez, not that it can't work, but then it's kind of, you have two guys doing the same thing. I'm not comparing Jaquez to Giannis. But their games are very downhill.
Right. Ball needs to be in their hands. Larsson is going to cut off of people, and that's basically just going to fit in where he fits. Like Pella fits as your fifth starter on a contending team, I think. Or maybe your seventh man coming off the bench.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the Heat have had success with this kind of build before, even before they were an elite developmental organization. You said they've done this for 30 years. It's kind of true. Yes, there was Ike Austin. Bruce Bowen is another one. Anthony Carter is one. I remember Pat at LaSalle watching AC beat Tim Hardaway's team in all the open runs, and was like, I got to sign that guy. And AC, for all, again, how it ended and not signing the contract or the facts and all that. But AC was he won him a playoff series. He was a starter in a playoff series that they beat. And the Knicks, but also the Detroit series. He had the shot over the backboard against the Knicks, but he also had the Detroit series where they swept Detroit. Unfortunately, Grant Hill played in that series, and that ruined the rest of Grant's career. But they had some guys, but then there was a drought. The Big Three era, they didn't really need to develop. The only ones they really tried to develop were Rio a little bit further because he was in his third year, and Norris. But that was it. Okay. The others were not really developmental projects. Nobody could really fit in that rotation. They went and got Ray. They went and got Richard. They went and got Shane. And then they went and got Beasley and Tony Douglas and Greg Oden and Eddie Curry and a whole bunch of others. But then it really flipped when Spo took control. And then after the Big Three era. Yes. And he changed his staff also to more of a developmental staff. Whether it was Quinny, whether it was Juwan, whether it was, now Malik and Wayne and some of the others. And there's been more of an alignment with Sioux Falls, with Adams Group and all of that. So they have become a developmental organization. And so I think they're even better equipped now than they were. And I'll let you close on this, to do what they used to do best, which was get the star and then be like, okay, with the resources, what do we need? Okay, again, around Shaq, Damon Jones has been in 7. We don't like to talk about Damon Jones now, but like he's going through some issues. But but Damon at the time, it was like, okay, he hadn't really fit anywhere because he couldn't defend. All he could do was spot up, shoot, bring the ball up the court, and hand it to somebody. But that's kind of all they needed on that team. That's all they needed, right? Yep. So they were able, and then Udonis, everybody talks about Udonis as 20-year guy, but he was on San Antonio's summer league team. He was going overseas, but he had a productive rookie season, mostly coming off the bench. And then they were like, okay, we can try him as the starting 4. I think that, and he is, of course, the Heat's ultimate developmental story, probably with Duncan second. So I think that when you look at what they can do now, I don't know if Myron Gardner is a rotation piece on a contender, but he showed some things. Nico would stay, and they're going to have to get something out of it. But I think Nico could be resurrected here, playing off of Giannis and Bam. That feels more natural. And if they feed confidence into him this offseason, which they have to, if they're not going to trade him. Now, of course, he could go the other way too, although he's a negative asset at this point. So I don't know how that works.
I think he stays.
I think he likely stays. He might be needed to make money work. Again, depending on what goes out and how many teams are involved, only again because they can't trade the Wiggins, they can't trade this and that currently, and they don't have Norm's deal to trade. Well, it's just basically Tyler's deal is the only big deal that they have to trade. So, I guess overall, do you think that we could cycle back to it and say, well, if they get the guy, then there's going to be 2 or 3 guys in a playoff rotation that are Heat success stories? That weren't drafted high, but they're the next Strus. They're the next Gabe. They're the guys that, Gabe and Max were starting in a finals. Okay. If people forget that, not just over Tyler, who was out, but over Kyle Lowry too. They were starting in a finals. Okay. So, do you think that's possible, that we look at it that way if they get Giannis?
If they get Giannis, what I think would be more possible, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to give up probably 2 young guys, maybe even 3, right? Yeah. So if they can somehow retain Davion along with Pella and Nico, I think there's something there, and they'll have enough money to bring in someone with that exception money.
Yes.
Right. And
they
I
may
think
not be second apron also, which means they could bring in a buyout guy too, if it comes to that ultimately.
So I think this could be, if this were to happen, which I'm gonna be honest and tell you, I don't think it's very likely for it to happen. but if it were to, right? Let's speak some hope into this.
Mm-hmm. They're
I
gonna get
think
mad at you in the YouTube comments because they get mad at me. I'm not allowed to speak.
Okay.
You're not allowed
I'm
to speak
right.
hope into anything these days. You're
Yeah, I
not.
know. Nobody's happy. Everybody's, ornery. But
Yes.
I think what's more likely is they'd keep those three young pieces because I still consider Davion young. He's 27, 28.
Yeah, I think he's 27. Last year of a contract, making 12 million. He's actually a great trade chip too. But I think they would. I think they would like to keep him. I think that makes sense.
And if they can somehow keep Kaspers, which I don't think is likely, but if they're able to keep Kaspers, hey man.
Well, Drew would probably be here too.
Oh, Drew Hennessy.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
He
plays hard. He's a great story.
Yes, but just play defense, brother. Don't touch the ball.
Well, I got you. Well, we've said that about a lot of guys. We said that about a lot of guys in Heat history. I do think there would be enough left that they really need to add like 2 functional pieces, and they would have a rotation. I think because the Wiggins thing is interesting too. Because
can I tell you what I think will happen with those 2 guys, with the 2 vets?
Yeah.
And I think this is only contingent upon them bringing up, the big fish.
Norm comes back.
A big 1 year deal, and then they'll try to somehow convince Wiggs to opt in.
Yeah. Well, if you're able to do that, and it is possible, if you're able to do that, then you're looking at a potential starting lineup. This is best case scenario, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Of Bam, Giannis, Wiggins. I would start Larson, but okay. And Davion, with Powell as your 6th man, Nico, Myron Gardner, and then you add. I guess I'd have to look at how the numbers work, but yes, you add someone the exception. That's your 9-man rotation, right?
Yeah.
And then you're giving.
There's clarity there,
right? And I will say this about Spo: for all the talk about how he likes being a mad scientist and all this, his teams work better when there's clarity. Much better.
Oh yeah.
He finally figured the big 3 thing out in 12. I know they won a championship in 12, but he really figured it out in 12-13.
Oh yeah.
Where he's like, okay, we're going to put UD back in the starting lineup. He's not going to play a big role anymore. We're going to move Shane back to the bench. And every game with 3 minutes left in the first quarter, we're subbing out 4. We're leaving either LeBron or Dwayne on the court. We're bringing in Ray and Norris and Shane and Bird. Yeah. And Mike Miller and James Jones, you're just there to basically, they were like the peanut gallery that year. They were funny, but they were just sitting there waiting for whenever Dwayne was out, basically. One of the 2 of them would go in. But that was their 9. And then the first 3, and then whoever it was, let's say it was Dwayne who stayed in, he'd stay in for the first 3 minutes of the second quarter. And then LeBron would, LeBron would replace him to start the second quarter. And that's how they would play this thing out with the bench. And there was clarity. You knew who the 9 were, and you know what happened? They won 27 straight games. Now, some of that had to do with the fact that LeBron was the best he's ever been, and Dwayne was really good in that he had played 25 of the 27. But it was clarity. There's been no clarity with the rotations or anything else because it's been guys in and out, no availability, pieces don't fit, can't play Hero and Powell together, doesn't want to play Ware and Bam together. Like it's all over the place. They need to find clarity. I think that's my whole thing. It's like, this is how they best operate. Get the star, create the clarity. Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, appreciate it. Good thoughts on here. Tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, definitely. Like Ethan said earlier, you can find me on Instagram at @CoachGeo_. And guess what, Ethan? I actually switched it on X.
Oh, you did?
Yes, I just switched it. So it's Coach Geo all around.
Should have been that all along.
Yeah, from the start.
Yeah. Well, now you have to have a conversation with Alex, because if Alex had switched from Tropical Blanket to Alex Toledo 305 like Brady did, they would have the same number of followers. But I don't think Alex wants it. He's hiding from everybody. All right, appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thanks to our sponsor, EricRubenstein.com. Also, Prize Picks. Use the code 5. Sign up for Off the Floor. More episodes to come.